control. There are these syndicates that want to privatize water. Now, what do? It is common in South Africa when you want to privatize something in order to benefit of it, you create a crisis. Then we don't have a crisis of water. We have a crisis of control for infrastructure. Because those that live around Soweto and other townships will remember 2005, there was this thing called Operation Qenamanzi. And they were telling us that, no, we do not have enough water, but they wanted to install water meters. They did in many areas. But there was one area called Piri, and the guys raised the question to say, before you installed these meters, you said there is a problem of water shortage. But after installing the meters, you don't care how many liters a person uses as long as they pay for them. So it means the problem is not water. The problem is payment. And it means that no, there is no crisis with water, but the crisis is with the control of the infrastructure that controls revenue in water. If you can go to the Val right now, Val Dam is above 100% as we speak right now, and you must do a research as to how long can the Val Dam sustain communities if it is sitting at 100%? With the Val Dam alone, we are good for coming 2 to 3 years. We are good in terms of domestic usage, including all the water schemes to the neighboring farms around the province. We are good. You know this thing, if you go back in history from the time of Kungubye and all, we are taught as South Africans to believe that Limpopo is a dry place. And it is not true. Limpopo is not dry. Limpopo is normal. South Africa does not have a dry place. We don't. The only thing is these dams that were built by the colonizers to redirect water away from the settlements of black people. If you go to Limpopo, you look at areas like, okay, now they have reshaped the provinces. Those that remember, White River, Bushbuck Ridge, Malelane, those places were under Limpopo. They don't have a problem with water. Go and check the settlement history. That is where White River, Bushbuck Ridge, Tukom's Ridge, Malelane, that is where white people had settled in their majorities. Now they build lakes and dams that restrict water to go into Ramashashane, Polokwane, because that is mostly where black people were located. But if you eradicate these dams and you follow the streams, you will see that water used to pass here. Now we are going into that particular setup, but with Gauteng, we are now being told that there is a problem of water shortage in Gauteng. But you must do your research. The water is being diverted to other places so that they can sell water to Gautengers, because now Gauteng is now 85% black. And we don't take cognizance of these things until they happen. Very soon we will be told that tap water is unsafe, tap water this and that, because we must buy water. But if you go back in 1972, Rand water, South African water was at some point declared.
But was kidnapped now, Mara almost and Mama kidnapped like 26. But Mama Nalting was going to Komadlanga of Commission.
So they
na le teng
sponsor our
hore
politicians to let the
batho ba mo kidnapile
infrastructure to collapse.
threatenise qeto ba mo
We don't
release.
have a problem of what? We have a problem of leadership. We have a problem of government. Not a problem of what? A problem of government. And this government is arrogant because we allow it to. We are too lenient as South Africans. You see? We are too lenient as South Africans. Yes, you are correct. At some point, they were putting ARVs in water and doing all of that things in water. Not because they want to sell water. Very soon, they'll be telling us that we must not go out of the sun. We are going to have an app that checks how long have you been under the sun so that you can pay. That's what business people do. Thank you.
Good deed. Hey, yeah. When you speak, hey, gang of it. Hey, me now. What I wanted us to do, because all these problems that are happening, it seems that all of us now, whoever that goes in and out of this panel, understands that all these problems. It seems like the way that they are happening, they are not just naturally happening because of errors that occurs because we're in the world. It seems like these disasters that are happening in our country are orchestrated, and the decision to make them a success, it seems as if it comes from our government. Now, it goes back to my point that we can tackle every problem. We can bring any problem right now as we speak. And you will see which at the end of the problem, there is government behind. Now, what I want you to answer me is that, because I have a solution, it's either we boycott against tax or we de-register ourselves as taxpayers. Either one, I love it. So with that being said, I'm asking you, Butom Dala Uguti, do you have other solutions in mind that us as South Africans and whoever wants to spread the word can take into account, so that if maybe someday these solutions are needed, we will be able to say, no, actually, we've once heard of this solution and it might help. So my question is to you, out of all these things, because you can bring another problem again, it will point to the government or whoever is in charge. Now, my question is to you is that, do you have other solutions in mind? We have taken note of the boycott against tax. We have taken note of the fact that it's either we decentralize ourselves from being taxpayers. We have taken note that you said, as much as we have these people who are starting lava movements, oh, Mash and EGPV, we must have such movements. La Azo, Bonisa South Africa.
What's happening in Johannesburg? Yes, I know there's no water shortage, but they are deliberately closing the taps for those people, for them to uprise there. And what's happening also, as this political party that already said they want to occupy the mayoral chain of, which is the DA, want to occupy the mayoral chain of Johannesburg. You see, these are all things, if you look at it, logistically, I do agree with your brother down here. Yes, they all, if you look at it from the time when Orania was also, it's along the Orange River, it's a lot of things that you can see. Most of these farms and places are where water sources are. And that is where they say, with regard to how they actually going to say they want to create their own, what they call it, their own self-established sectors of South Africa. You see, when you do that self-determination, it already says that you can't live with people. I don't agree with that. First of all, let me go back quickly. You see, if you can look at the stock exchange of South Africa, just look at the stock exchange during the 1994 period or to it. You see the agreement of the Sunset Clause. That was when white people were supposed to give their power over to us as a full power of the economy. 90% of these particular companies that was there their particular previous regime's names, like the Renish Group. They became the Renish Bank before they became the, when they actually sold the actual rights to that. They then registered in 1997. Then it was Bidvest. Bidvest then also had the same context what the previous regime did. They then had the Bidvest Bank, and that was now recent when they actually made the Bidvest Bank. Now those people and what they did, you see, if you look at it, Rennies own a lot of properties. They actually went into properties. Even now, currently, Prasa is buying properties. I don't seem to understand why our companies that was registered and they filled out tenders or some similar to the fact where they became entities supplying a certain services. Why is that service money taken and they are using it to purchase property? And you must remember, this is how it worked from the previous, and if you look at it across the world, even now we have a conflict in certain parts of the world with regard to a country also occupying the spaces of people for the sake of land. Currently here we have in South Africa where land is being purchased and rezoned, because 90% of our farm areas are now becoming gated communities. I don't know why. Because of most probably they
Yeah,
know
now
what
I
they're
would
doing.
send to a fool.
90% of our
Branch
people
waits
are
into
now
a
being
button.
privatized.
Otherwise,
If we look at our
I
Cape Town
wrote
port, it's no longer a South African port, it's a privatized system. 3.5 billion was actually spent just on a cold storage facility. Now you ask yourself, the founding year was 1996. Now you must remember, it was very effective for them to take their money and then conglomerate this corporations that was in 1984. You must remember, there's always a 10-year plan. If you look at how America has a economic crash or a certain way of having problems like the Y2K, and in the 2008 you had the actual, what do you call it, subprime mortgage bond. There was a lot of things. They are copying and pasting every single thing that's currently happening over there. They are copying and pasting, because you must remember, this thing that we are seeing is a chessboard that they are just following. Ballooning taking place, and in insurance. You see 90% of these companies that actually has a, if you look at it, now recently Vodacom's headquarters burnt out here in Cape Town. A lot of insurance was actually paid out. This is what they do. Companies have a certain time period where the buildings, and that is where we come to the buildings also. 90% of those building owners, if you can track, you can actually hold them liable, because 90% of those building owners ran down to Cape Town. And those people, if you look at it, the Twin Towers was destroyed because the property had a dilapidated system. There was certain particular, what do you call it, effective type of chemicals coming from that asbestos and that. So you must realize that building has its time. The maintenance couldn't be taken. There was a lot of money that they couldn't put back into the system, so they had to leave that and abandon the building. So those people that abandoned, they were all told about 5-6 years back. You must remember, they had meetings that we call, I don't want to say the people of this flag on my profile. They were all told to come to Cape Town. Now you must remember, in that same period 5 years back, they had all these exit plans and everything. So for me to not come here and spew a lot of false information and most probably some propaganda idea that maybe people might think, I am a person, I move around, like I said, I move around in the archives, I move around in the deeds office. I see a lot of things, and I say it again, I'm dangerously worried about what the system is going to be like next year. Because I'm saying to you, my sister, I think Pile. I think she was this morning on when I spoke about the story about how they are going to have this naturalization be used from the people in Australia and the people currently in America. All these people are just going to vote for one party to take power. And that means the regime is going to go back in the hands of those people that were in power because their money depleted. They have no, you see, even if you look at it, the beers ran out of South Africa and they went to Botswana and Mozambique and they caused a lot of trouble there. So the money tap is closing. So now they need to make some kind of way to have that tap open. So if we as South African can close those taps, have these companies like the Baldwin Group, which is actually making money out of our banking system, you must remember. If I am a competition for these big banks like First as National in Nedbank and all those things, I need to do something so that I also can make money. And I can tell you, if I'm going to go research into that particular intense research, I'm going to tell you there is something that tells me there was manipulation taking place far back as 1997. And if you look at these properties that was now, you can look at it all over these gated communities, especially along the coast, because you must remember the most money being made when it's foreign time for festive season, especially currently now. You see a lot of these people that was in this particular, what do you call it, this G20, they're not going to leave. They're going to actually spend some time over the period of the festive season here in South Africa, and they already earmarked to occupy certain spaces where they're going to have Airbnbs or something. No. It's actually most of these groups that we are talking about where Baldwin Properties are making money, because they're not actually in just certain gated communities. They're actually buying. I mean, I know of a Chinese group that's buying out hotels. They've got the largest populated one here in Cape Town. To myself, we are being sold out, and this is the thing that we need to acknowledge. They make money enormously, and we ask the question, where is this money going to? Because we don't see reinvestment into South Africa. I don't see it. Nobody actually has. If you look at it, Kailicha is still an informal settlement. Whether they build RDP houses, it's still an informal settlement. You don't have network. There's no infrastructure whatsoever. You go into Google Earth and that, it's just upgrading of a road that's maybe just dilapidated. They just put a little bit of tar back and I think now we have placed the service delivery. Now these are things that I say it's wrong. If you look back at the Into Gateway project, that they also, the Blue Party, established here in South Africa, and they said to a company called, okay, let's not go to all these companies, but look at the trick. Housing was only built for those people coming from the Cape Town International to the stadium. And what did they do? They just built houses on the Into Highway. 90% of the houses beyond that, just 100 meters from it, is informal. So you weren't doing that for the sake of actually supplying the people with the upgrade. You were just building because there's a large capacity of, what do they call it? They call it like informal settlement. So if you get removed, they almost like, I don't know if somebody heard about the, what do they call it? At the airport, man. It's like, what is Blikkiesdorp and those type of things. These are designated places where if you get evicted from your property and you don't pay rates and taxes, they got a place where they throw you in one of those shacks, and then they say, well, we are evicted legally and now we've applied accommodation, so you're going to stay here. Those are tricks and tactics of the old system. You must remember the system is not for us. Certain people are making money, and that is where gentrification and all these things are taking place.
So these are forceful removals. Is this forceful removals?
Yeah. That's correct, my sister. It is exactly, because you must remember, even if I'm going to go into certain meetings that I was, and that was 2009, just before 2010, I was actually against a certain particular sizes of houses that were supposed to be built for certain informal settlements. And look, I can go back to 1992, I think there was a company by the name of Habitat for Humanity. They're building Kailicha houses, but the DA was against it because they were still a Democratic Party, not a Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Party said, no, know, we got our own, what do you call it? We got our own contractors and everything. Then apparently those people from Holland and those Habitat for Humanity people said, no, we don't need contractors. We're going to build. We're going to have our own people come build with the communities. And that is where they already identified themselves by saying they want to make money out of building. Because you must remember, you will get allocated, any person, a property gets allocated, a size of the allocation of that property is measured, then they build you a fixed structure. That structure is going to be worth 100 and something to almost 200,000 now, currently, if it is estimated at prices now. They don't spend all that money to build you an RDP house, I'm telling you. And if you look at the sizes of it, I mean, a 3 meter by 2.7. I mean, what can you do in a house with a small room like that? The kitchens are so small, it's 1.5, not even 1.5 meter, 1 meter 30. That's wide, by 2 meters. How can you apply yourself in a kitchen like that with a fridge or everything? The people have to put fridges in the lounge. I mean, that is not sustainable development. The reason, and I'm going to give you now a reason, because this company also now that they've got, that's doing this, it's a black owner, yes, but it's a trick behind it, because that particular company, I'm not going to mention company so that people don't get flagged or whatsoever. They are building houses, but yet they are not building the houses sustainable enough, because you can't park your car on that property. The gap around the house is not even a meter wide. So I mean, what type of property is that? Is this for you to go sleep? It's like a shack just built out of bricks. And that was when in that meeting I questioned that, and I said, now what about these people having a garden? What about the children? Should they go play in the road? They said, no, they've got a park. And I asked them, look at it, but this park is about 500 meters away. So all these children of this community must now walk 500 meters in danger, whatever, if you're going to say it. You want to say there's only one park. Now, you see, these are things that they are doing. They're influxing ourselves with the idea they are doing this thing for, what do you call, for the sake of mankind. It's for the making of revenue, because the more housing they can put into the pocket of land, the more money they make out of revenue. And if the housing occupant doesn't pay, they leave you. They leave in arrears. And like now, currently, if you are in arrears, you are being deducted from your water system. You are being deducted from your electrical system. So every time you buy units, and that's what I said earlier on, they are going to the digitized system. Everything is going to be digitized. That's why this character came to South Africa with this Starlink and everything, so that they can acquire, because I'm here in Cape Town, and there's now people, if they don't know it, there's a plane only flying over the actual Cape Flats area. I don't see that plane going through Noordhoek, the white areas. It's not flying over the Claremont and that affluent areas, just goes over there. So they're actually now doing a what do you call, because you can only fly at night if you do infrared, what you call data capturing. So they do photographs of the entire system, because they fly for 2-3 hours, because that plane doesn't fly with beacons, because there's a beacon light, it's off. And I say that Annick Marie, I said this last year, they wanted a separate policing system. Now you must remember, this thing, I'm not going to be here now just sucking things out of my thumb. This thing about, if you look at this police thing and everything, this is the way they want to show to the South African government that the police cannot be trusted, so that they can occupy the rule within the rule, so that they can have their own policing system. That is what they planned, and they are winning. So you see, I'm not coming here to just, monologue here, but we have to be very careful on what's going to happen next year. I said this morning, and I said it with all affection. They've got digitized system in Home Affairs. They've got a digitized system in the banking. They've got digitized all over. We need to digitize the system called the voting, so that it cannot be rigged. It must be uncompromisable, so that we can find out the person. Even if, look, I tell you, you know why they're rushing to get these people naturalized, and people from those, what they call occupants of this, how do you call, nomadic passports and everything. So once you get a nomadic passport, you already stamped as a South African occupant, and those people that is nomadic, where are they going to vote? Because maybe they're also being used and naturalized. Because I'm saying to you, I'm watching banks. I'm telling you, I've got not spies, but I always got this idea of saying, look at here, I request an answer by certain people. I say to them, okay, you work here long. The seats that's occupied in these banks, is it South African, colored, black, Indian? Which is the people that comes here most? They tell me, no, it's mostly foreigners that is actually booking for their ID and their citizenship. Now then you ask yourself, I'm looking at it, what I was told, I just went to a certain other banks and I was just sitting around and just checking at certain times, and I see to myself, it's actually true. So we must be careful what's going to happen. So the mandate should be, before the voting should take place next year, I think a digitized system should be taken as a mandate, because we already saw what happened last year. The system crashed and suddenly certain parties had more than what they're supposed to have. But with a digitized system, you must remember, there's only one way. Even though that person had one ballot, they cannot have more than, because now people that voted in one area can quickly jump in a car and they can go vote in another area with the IDs. But when it's digitized, when it's a database, nothing can happen. You must remember, that's the only way where we're going to capture the system and who's involved. And any party that is involved in vote rigging or whatever, they should be deregistered. That is what we should also do in that policy. Because no party can then just say, okay, because I'm deregistered, I'm going to open up another party. They should be banned from actually participation in any political system. I'm pausing for now. Thank you very much.
Out.